in 2024, complaints were received from residents along the waterways regarding live-on-board vessels in the city waterways.
At yesterday's workshop, Palm Coast made a move to tighten rules on boats anchoring in city canals after complaints about families living on vessels. Palm Coast Code Enforcement Manager Barbara Grossman explains why the update is needed.
The reasoning behind this is we have a vessel right now that is anchored out in the second cut, and they're living on the boat. So we need an ordinance. It's not so much that, I belong to 3 boat clubs. You go out and you anchor out and you have a good time, and then you go home and you take your boat and you put it to the dock. These people have 2 children and 2 adults, and they're living on the vessel in our canal.
The new rules would clearly define live-aboard vessels and prohibit them from anchoring in canals.
Anchorage of live-aboard vessels within the city of Palm Coast waterways. The anchorage of live-aboard vessels within the waters located in municipal boundaries of a city is strictly prohibited 7 days at 24 hours per day.
Councilman Ty Miller stressed the canals are for navigation, not housing.
This type of behavior is typical in waterways that are broader, larger, that have, more natural mooring locations, things like that. But our private canals are meant for navigation from the canal homes to the intercoastal waterway. They're not meant for this type of activity, so to speak.
Palm Coast Mayor Mike Norris did not mince words.
There's squatters on the water.
Squatters in the water.
The draft ordinance allows exceptions for emergencies such as storms or floods, but aims to prevent long-term anchoring that creates safety and environmental concerns. The council expects to take up the measure for a first reading in the coming weeks. Good morning, Flagler County. I'm Rich Carroll. You're listening to Flagler's Morning News on Wednesday, September 24th. This week, the Flagler County Commission finalized a $335 million budget for the 2026 fiscal year, along with a millage rate of 7.9945. That rate will generate about 8% more in ad valorem tax revenue compared to the 2025 budget. The general fund, which supports the county's constitutional officers, totals $202 million. Commission Chair Andy Dance reminded residents that the timeline for changes had closed.
It's a year-long process for us. It begins again in December when we get together and start looking at priorities. So what we need, right, is public input during the year, during the budget process. And the reason you won't see much movement here today is because there's no time left to make changes, because we do have statutory requirements of getting this budget complete before October 1st.
This was the first budget cycle for Commissioner Kim Carney.
Yes, I do believe there's some fluff in there. Yes, I will be looking for it in 2027. So as we set our goals, that's when we tie it to the budget. If our goals are off, that means our budget's off. If our budget's off, that means our goals are off. So if there's specific things you don't want, specific services that the community does not want, they should speak up now and put it in writing so we know what you don't want. If you don't want a sheriff, let us know. You don't want a fire department, let us know.
The commission adopted the budget and millage unanimously. This local news is a service of Flagler County's Toyota dealer, Beaver Toyota in St. Augustine, conveniently located right off I-95 at exit 311.
Nobody really knows how to drive a roundabout.
Roundabouts can be confusing, but Flagler County Sheriff Rick Staley admits they work.
He told the state he thought it would be a bad idea to install a roundabout on US 1.
And the state said, well, we know that we're not going to stop crashes, but they will be less severe because they will be an angle crash instead of a T-bone crash. And that is exactly what we've seen.
On Free for All Friday with David Ayers, he issued a mea culpa.
So I will have to admit that I was wrong on that, and the state did accomplish the goal, which was to save lives. And the crashes have been generally less severe than we have had at the roundabouts. I mean, all you got to do is see how many near misses there are.
When the sheriff is wrong, he's honest enough to acknowledge it publicly.
I'm always a transparent sheriff, and when we're wrong, I will, even if the sheriff is wrong, I will admit it. But they proved to me that these engineers that are paid a lot more money than I'm paid were right.
After completion of major roundabouts like Cody's Corner and Old Dixie Highway at US 1, the sheriff's office reported a noticeable reduction in serious and fatal crashes at those locations. That's due to features like updated lighting and signage, slower traffic speeds, and fewer conflict points. From the WNZF Newsroom, I'm Liz Ryan.
And now you're up to date on Flagler's Morning News. I'm Rich Carroll.